Greetings from Snake Mountain Boat Works on Wednesday, March 5, 2025. We thought we'd put together a video that shows what happens when some poor restorer gets a boat to restore where the finish on the decks is either some sort of west system or epoxy material that is absolutely impossible to take off either with an infrared heat gun or any kind of stripper. Even a stripper with methylene chloride in it is not going to touch this. So we start out, and I'll let Rick tell us what he's about to do and give you a little example.
Okay, we're starting off with the aggressive sander. As you can see, it's very, very hard to get off, and all these cover boards were all cupped really big time. And you'll see as I'm sanding, I'll show you. Very, very cupped. You see I went around the outside perimeter and it's got a really big cup.
Like it's about a 32nd of an inch thick, huh?
Yeah, so we really got to aggressively sand it down before we even attempt to flatboard it at all.
Well, okay, this is a three-step process because, what is that, 80 grit you've got on there?
80 grit, yeah.
But the random orbit, because of it is a random orbit, is leaving all kinds of scratches we can't see right now in this surface. So we get to the point where with the random orbit, we've got all of the epoxy off, and now I'll hand it over to Joe for the next step.
Yeah, so I know what you're saying, random orbital on decks, ew, that's disgusting. But we're doing it for a reason. We're just trying to break it down enough to where it's making it somewhat flat, and we're taking down as much finish as possible, because even with a mini inline, it will take forever to clean all this up. So we'll go through, and my basic principle is I try to keep it at a slight angle. And I know what you're thinking, it's going to give cross-grain scratches, but the way I do it, you virtually get none, and it will take anything out. Just like any other sander, you don't keep it in one spot for too long. On the other side, once we get it down...
I'll walk around.
Yep, once we get it down, as you'll see...
This is not an OSHA-approved workspace today. So I just hope I'm not giving you migraine headaches. So on this side...
Once you get it down, I've gone through and I use the mini inline. You can still see spots of stain and varnish, but that's where our Hutchins comes in. And this is the same thing. I mark the whole deck, and I mean when I say mark it, I mark every possible square inch that you can think of. That way you're getting a nice baseline, so when you're working with the sander, once you take all the lines off equally, you know you're flat. And with this one, I tend to run this one at a little bit more of an angle. You really want to try to get it to cover up one whole plank. And by doing that, it eliminates any other scratches that our mini inline couldn't do, and really just flattens it out.
Wait a minute, before you start, let's remind everybody again that these are not individual planks. This is the plank that Joe is, right there and there, that Joe is about to sand. And then he will sand this plank, and my guess he'll overlap a little bit as he does.
Anywhere where there's an overseam, I put it directly in the center, and I'll work that whole seam. Actually, when I first start, I always tend to start on a seam because you're going to notice a lot of the times that's your lowest spot. It's because all these fasteners are pushing down on a batten in there. So as you're going over that, once you get your main part of your lines, then you're going to slightly start to move over, you know, keeping your center here in almost every center aspect of that. So when I sand it, it's more or less like this. By doing this whole area right here is completely flat, but I'll go over this whole deck system at least 2 or 3 times to ensure that the decks are completely flat. Because when it comes in time for varnishing, it will save a lot of time. If the flatter we can get these deck systems, the better off the varnish job will be.
Well, there's your lesson on, first of all, please don't use 2-part varnishes. This is the headaches you give to anybody that follows you. And I guess we could also say that about 5200, but that's different. We're putting boats together to stay together. And if you do encounter it, this 3-part process, start with an orbital, go to a short inline, and then go to the longboard. And we're using 80 grit all the way through. So that's our lesson for today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye for now from Snake Mountain Boat Works.